welcome to the show. Hey, it is the near the end of the week, and I am Gary. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties here at iHeart, so we're going to do a best of, and as soon as we can get to go live, we will. So listen to a best of Let's Talk Nutrition with Dr. Garko.
Hey, is this spring? What time of year are we in?
I just saw our resident ex-Marine.
To the show. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in. Is this spring? What time of year are we in?
I just saw our resident ex-Marine just walk in.
Yeah. John Trim, good friend, told me a wonderful story. I hope you're having a good day wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show and whatever you may be doing. We're all looking for a ray of hope and light, right? Keep our faith, use faith, whatever device, whatever concept to make us so that life is meaningful, directed, notwithstanding the challenges of everyday life. And I have a friend who has a child who's been diagnosed with leukemia. It's one story after another that people face. You know, it's just, and I'll say it again, and I'll continue to say it, we're all in it together. So rather than us being at each other's throats over politics and all this other nonsense, maybe we should do a better job, all of us, in trying to just, put that stuff aside and help people. If everybody got up every day and said, I'm going to help somebody, I'm going to do something for somebody else today, the world would exponentially improve. It would be instant. Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Think about that. The power of that. If everybody got up and said, I'm going to do something for somebody else today, and if we did that every day, everybody on the planet did that, I think what a remarkable place it is a remarkable place, even in spite of ourselves. But that's how I've been thinking. Didn't always think that way, but, you live long enough and you run into enough traffic, so to speak, and, you know what I mean, your trials and tribulations and tragedies and so on, hopefully you figure it out and try to realize what's important. That's why we do the show. We do the show for you, and in our own way, try and educate and empower people so that you really can take charge of their health and maybe do something about their life that they otherwise wouldn't do. You'd be surprised who listens and why they listen and what effect the show has on them. I never understood that until they had me do appearances and people would come up to me and tell me what the show meant to them. I was totally oblivious, I must admit. No longer. But here's how you can connect and make contact.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK. Don't forget Dr. Garko's personal email is drgarko@letstalknutrition.com. Follow us, like us on Facebook at Let's Talk Nutrition, on Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition. And please, again, subscribe to that YouTube channel, Let's Talk Nutrition on YouTube, so you can get alerts when we come on live.
I've done my share of shows on sleep and how important sleep is. It's one of the most underrated, although well-studied, lifestyle dimensions or variables. It's truly remarkable how much, when you look at the science of sleep and what we know about it, I mean, we know a lot. But insomnia prevails. Prescription drugs, prescription medications to help people sleep are in the billions of dollars. And some of those drugs are so dangerous and addictive in their own way, right? Well, I'm, doing my thing, trying to figure out what themes I'm going to focus on for a show and this and that. And I come across this concept called weighted blankets. Let me just want to see something. Do you know what a weighted blanket is?
I do. I have one, and I literally bought one about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you really?
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't know I was going to ask you this, right?
No idea.
How did you learn about it? That's Stephen Armstrong, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, one of my great producers. How did you learn about it? Why did you buy it?
I'd seen them online before, and then one of my friends, she had one, and I tried it out. I'm like, this feels very comfortable. And I know that they've got not necessarily blankets, but for dogs that get upset for thunderstorms, they have like a weighted coat that you put on them. And it's the similar concept as far as it's comforting, and also can be like a stress reliever. It can quell anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So you've been using it for 2 weeks?
Not necessarily using it every day, but yeah.
How much? How do you make a decision? I assume that these blankets vary by weight.
Yes, they have different weights, different sizes and whatnot. I forget what weight mine is, but basically it's kind of filled with like sand kind of granules.
Is there a formula to figure out what weight blanket you would need?
Yeah, they give you kind of a primer as far as how big you are, what you weigh versus what the blanket weighs and whatnot.
So for Gary, it would be like a giant tent?
It'd be like the size of an elephant.
Boy, he's cruel. I threw you under the bus. He threw you under the train. You want to go hit him?
No, I'm good.
You knew what it was too.
Yes.
How did you know?
Because
Don't go away, Stephen.
I saw a thing on Kelly Pickler's YouTube channel, and she had something on social media about it.
And it really works, Stephen.
Yeah, no, it's definitely very comforting. Mm-hmm.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
You sleep better.
Well, again, I don't always use it for sleep. Sometimes if I'm just maybe laying on the couch or just
Watching
kind of
TV,
resting,
relaxing. Yeah.
It's almost like somebody's holding you.
Well, I could use some of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would liken it back to like if you think about when you're a kid, and whether it's your mom or your dad or whomever, kind of just holding you as you're sitting on the couch or something like that. That's kind of the feeling that you get. It's very comforting.
What do you think, Gary?
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm sorry I said that.
no, it's okay.
I was messing with you. You know I love you.
I know. It's funny that you say that because we went to Busch Gardens and I saw them washing an elephant with this brush one time. Well, I was using the same brush to wash my hands, so I stopped using it. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But the weighted blanket thing, especially at night when you have like small children, it's good for the small children.
Well, apparently, I know a few things about some things. There's a lot I don't know about a lot of things. I didn't know about this too much, I admit. Apparently, it's now mainstream. Apparently. The blankets weigh, from what I'm learning here, anywhere from 4 pounds to 25 pounds. Time magazine has called them the gravity blanket. It's called a gravity blanket. One of Time's best inventions of 2018. This was in a write-up. Time said this: if you're wondering why everybody on Instagram seems to be draped in weighted blankets, you can thank gravity. Dude. Close quote. Time noted that while the company didn't invent weighted blankets, they've been used for many years to calm adults and children with anxiety, autism, attention problems. It did perfect mass marketing. Wow. So Time Magazine is involved in this? By the spring, let me see here. What else I can tell you? By the spring of 2019, in 2018, experts estimated there were about a half a dozen companies, give or take a few, that were producing weighted blankets. This is news to me. I feel embarrassed. By 2019, now we got over 24 companies. Big names like Gravity, Mosaic, Sensacom, and Beautyrest share the market with other companies, including Grandpa's Garden, Sensory Goods, and Zonely. This is all new to me. I'll tell you what I sleep with. I'm not making it up. I'll tell you the truth, and then we'll go to Mike in St. Pete. Ridgecrest.
You notice I said yet, though.
I asked Gary, I said, how are you doing with your weight? I don't, my style, I don't put pressure, right?
Right.
I don't do that. And then he said, so far, so good. I didn't want to What did you say?
I said I haven't want to put my face in a pecan pie yet, but
It's a struggle, isn't it?
it is. It's a fight.
It's a fight, man. It's hand to mouth combat.
It is, and if people would say, "Oh, it's just a matter of willpower,"
No, man.
no,
Well,
it's not.
we're here. I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah.
You know. I'm just saying.
Like last night. I was a little distraught about the fire, so I called you.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big history buff, and being from Indiana, I'm a Notre Dame of Indiana fan.
I get it. So we're talking about weighted blankets. You knew about them. Stephen bought one. I'm the only dunce in the room that didn't know.
Well, those blankets that you use are kind of
Okay, so here's what this is what I sleep with. This is TMI maybe. I moved recently. I had a house built and we moved, and the movers inadvertently left some of the moving quilts. And I called them and said, "Nah, just keep them. It's no big deal." So I washed them. And so one day I was in the house. It was during the wintertime. It was cold. And I grabbed one of them and I put it on. I was on the couch and I put it over me. I said, "Geez, this thing is comfortable. It's like a quilt." And that's what I use to sleep with now. It's not weighted, but maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. I'll have to look more into this weighted blanket business. All right. Maybe we'll get you one, Gary. Christmas.
big old hug.
Let's go to St. Petersburg. Michael lives there. Hi, Michael. How are you today?
Good, thank you. What's up, Doc?
I'm good. So, what's up, Doc?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a comment or a thought about vaccines. What was on your mind?
Well, I have. I'm not a religious objection. I'm a conscientious objector to the theory that herd immunity can be obtained by vaccinating people.
Yeah.
Some of the reason that I am a conscientious rather than a religious objector is because of the actual studies done by the CDC.
Yeah. What did you learn? What did you learn in your research?
I'm not finished laying out my premise. But
All right, go ahead.
I will. Number one, the studies done by the CDC. Number two, the things that were happening in nature prior to the advent of vaccination, the way that people got over it. And number three, the nutritional approach. We have had packaged food and processed food, and I noticed that in your advertisement, you suggest that healthy nutrition is what you're aiming at. I'm going to suggest that healthy nutrition, sanitation, and fever reduction, or the ability to, through natural processes, reduce fever, are the things that help people get through the normal bugs in the system.
So far, you haven't said anything that I don't disagree with. I agree with you 100%.
Well, okay.
So where do you veer from? What is your stance about people? Let me just ask you directly. What is your stance about people being vaccinated?
I think that for you to use the force of law, use the force of a gun, use the force of jail to suggest that I must be vaccinated when the pharmaceutical companies that are making the vaccines are protected from suits. And there is a vaccine injury compensation thing. So you can't go and sue the vaccine manufacturer. You have to go and sue the U.S. government.
I see.
And suggest that you've been injured by a vaccine before you can get compensated for being injured by a vaccine. When you take that and you put that over on one side of the table and you look at the statistics of people who have been nutritionally well-fed,
right,
and haven't been influenced by cultivated viruses. If you will look carefully, please look carefully at the specific genomes or the,
Sure.
the genetic encoding in these outbreaks,
Yeah.
and trace it back to the things that come from the vaccines. My daughter had, my sister had kids, and she says, "Oh, watch out! We need to be careful around this diaper because he's recently been vaccinated with attenuated live virus." Attenuated. So it's been changed a little bit, but it can still make you sick.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a vaccine expert. If my daughter were here, she could probably respond better than I. She's a virologist. But I can say this, that these vaccines, the objection to many of these vaccines is because of they may contain toxic substances, that like aluminum and mercury. That's one argument. That vaccines can overload the immune system, a child's immune system, that natural immunity is better. That's another argument that's made, and that vaccines can cause autoimmune disorders such as asthma and allergies. Those are some of the basic fundamental arguments against vaccines. Those can be all addressed, and it gets rather complicated. You're right about all that. I think much of what you said, I don't disagree with. Being healthy, having a virulent immune system, and trying to maintain your good immune system should serve as a first line of protection. We had in some hard messages. I'll come back. I'll continue.
Don't be stressed out.
and welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in. We're live. I'm back on. Oh, it's great to be with you. I'm glad you're there. I'm glad to be here with you always. A lot going on today. No guests, so it's you and me. And there's always something to serve up. Katie's here and Gary's here. Hi, Katie.
Good morning.
Thank you, Katie, for taking care of business. And Gary, thank you. It's all good.
How you doing today?
I'm good. Things happen.
Right? In that first segment, we were running a best of, but it was talking about technology and health.
A lot of technology, the apps. And that's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
The different apps that are out now that can, keep track of what you eat, keep track of your exercise, keep track of your blood pressure, keep track of your blood glucose. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's like a clinic.
I signed up with our healthcare provider for an app, and they're sending me a digital scale that syncs to my phone.
That's cool.
Katie, have you ever heard of something like that? I've never heard of it yet.
How do they weigh you?
It's a scale, so it's a regular scale, but the scale sends everything about you to your phone. So you put all your information in. It helps you with your BMI.
Wow.
Yeah.
Smart.
I mean, yeah.
Very good.
It's amazing.
The technology has probably saved a lot of people's lives. If we did a close scrutiny of examination or investigation into all the different apps that are out there and all the pieces of technology that help people with health issues, it's probably pretty remarkable. So, yeah, we're all good. 877-897-8255, 877-897-TALK. There's a story that's trending. Now, this is a story that's in Pakistan. And you say, well, my God, that's so far away from us. Why would we even be concerned? Well, because there's a human element to it in a sad way. Nearly 500 children, 500 kids have been infected with HIV in a single Pakistani city. I mean, that's distressing. It's in an outbreak that's led to the arrest of at least one doctor and highlighted gross inadequacies in the local healthcare system. I should say, as of mid-May, 410 children, 100 adults in Larkana, a city in Pakistan's Sindh province, had tested positive for HIV. This is according to the Associated Press. Those numbers have since doubled. Wow, or climbed to 494. 494 children, 113 adults. That's according to NPR, National Public Radio. How in God's name did 600 people in one area become infected with HIV? According to reports from NPR and AP, parents in April began to notice lasting fevers in their kids, and they took them to a nearby medical center to be tested. About April 24th, 15 of the youngsters, 2 to 8 years of age, tested positive for HIV. Recognizing the seriousness of this issue, local officials shortly thereafter, they set up literally a healthcare camp where children and their parents were screened for the virus. The results of the screening within the first few days were shocking, one of the officials said. The test revealed that the parents of the HIV-positive children were HIV negative, raising questions about how did so many kids become infected. By May 14th, after screening more than 10,000 people, the number of diagnosed individuals had grown to 400. So how did they get infected? a web of unsanitary, you can't make this up. It was just literally a web of unsanitary, unsafe medical practices. Sloppy medicine. Many of the children who originally tested positive for HIV had been treated in Larkana, a clinic by Dr. Muzaffar Gangaro. After demands from parents, Gangaro was eventually tested for HIV. The results came back positive. The guy was infected, and he's practicing medicine. And here is when it is suspected that the source of spreading the HIV in the kids was through bad practices. The doctor was arrested. Gangaro was arrested on suspicion of intentionally. What kind of creature does this? Intentionally infecting these kids with HIV. I'm not an advocate of the death penalty. Let me tell you something. This guy,
Lord of mercy.
that's 500 kids. Can you imagine intentionally infecting 500? And it leaves me speechless. I read that story and I thought, do we actually grow human beings such as that?
Well, at first I thought, when you said bad medicine, I was like, here's an example of how technology could help, bad medical practices.
Well, it's not only bad medical practice. He's running a dirty clinic.
Right.
But the part of the story that moves beyond all of that is that he was doing it by design. Those kids didn't hurt anybody. They were, these are innocent children as young as 8 years old. I don't know what they're going to do with him. Do they have the death penalty in Pakistan?
Yes.
I'm not an advocate of the death penalty. In this case, I don't know. He's presumed innocent until proven guilty, but nevertheless. Let's go to Valrico. Beth, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Hi. My son is 7 and he has autism, and I'm on a lot of support groups, Facebook support groups, and the going suggestion is 10% of the body weight for the weighted blankets. So
Okay,
like
all right, this is good. Hold your thought. We're headed into some messages. I have to take them because they're going to cut me off. So I want to talk to you. I'm going to come back. I want to talk to you about your son. I want to talk about this concept. Thank you for calling. Be right back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thank you for tuning in today, watching the show, listening to the show, recording it, whatever you do with it, play it, replay it. We're live, and let's go back to Valrico and talk with Beth. Beth, thank you for calling. First of all, before we get to that issue of weighted blankets, how old is your son?
He's 7.
He's 7. And when was he diagnosed with autism?
It wasn't officially until he was 3.5. I had a feeling about it when he was about 2.5, but I couldn't convince the doctors that there was something wrong with him. They just thought he was a boy and he had delayed speech because he could talk, but at age 3 he only had 26 words. But he could say the alphabet and he could make eye contact.
As a mom now, what was it? Instinctive? Was it early on? Did you sense something was not right beyond his language acquisition delay? Was there something else going on that instinctively, you just felt that something wasn't right?
Well, I started taking him to moms groups, and we moved from Michigan down here to Florida, which I'm so glad we did because there's so many great resources down here for children with all different kinds of disabilities. I started taking him to the local library for the reading groups, and I noticed that he wasn't doing all the things the other kids were doing. He was slightly delayed. He had I had to have a helmet on his head. It was misshapen a little bit. So the doctor told me that he was going to always be slightly delayed and then he was going to catch up. So instead of sitting at 6 months, he sat at 6 3/4 months. He started walking at 12.5 months. They weren't big delays, they were little delays, but when I started going to these reading groups at the local library, I noticed that the other kids were doing stuff that he wasn't doing, and he seemed to be a little bit obsessed with the alphabet. He loved letters, looking for letters. We got these little letters that turned into robots. He would play with the little robots and he liked to line things up.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was the speech delay. That just by 3.5 years old, you should have more than 26 words.
Yes, you should. So let me, first of all, I grew up with a sister who was born normally and then caught pneumonia and then double pneumonia. And back then, medicine isn't what it is now, and she suffered severe brain damage. And I remember my mother taking me to one doctor after another, trying to find out what was wrong. And no, they couldn't give her any answers. And then finally, back then, they said, "Oh, your child is mentally retarded," which is a terrible way to describe a person. And I remember the day, the final doctor that she went to, and I remember I was just a little boy sitting there watching my mother weep when he said, "There's you're whatever." I don't remember the exact words, but there was some sort of message that distressed my mother. And I remember getting into an elevator with her and my sister. I have great empathy for you. For most people, autism is an abstraction. For you, it's a reality that, it's even hard to know how to process it at times. I'm sure you must struggle with it. I don't know, but
well, yeah. When I first got the diagnosis, I cried for about 2 weeks, and then I basically said, "Okay, you have to pull yourself together." When they told me that he was never going to be able to talk, and it was going to be adult daycare for him. But I worked with him. I got on the floor with him. I started taking him places to speech OT and just started doing things with him and trying to get him into groups. And now he's on a path where they think he's going to end up at a community college or a college. It's been a lot of work and a lot of money.
Good for you.
Hope out there, but
wow.
you have to. you can't, like you said, you can't close down. You have to just keep, it's truly as a puzzle. You have to just keep working at the puzzle, and when someone says no, you don't take no. You just, okay, what else can I try?
Well, I said the other day when it was Mother's Day, I said this Mother's Day is always a special day because mothers make the world a better place. And you're a testament to that. Good for you. I mean, man, I know.
Yeah,
I'm sure you might.
Can I just
Sure,
say
please.
one thing to all the mom and dads out there? If you have a child with disability, like my child's able to tell me he loves me and gives me a hug, your child may not be able to hug you, but they'll sit next to you. You just know how important you are to them, and what a wonderful thing you're doing for them. Because even when they just sit next to you, and if they can't say anything to you, you are so important to them. They love you so much, even if they can't say the words. Just please know that.
Absolutely. And I remember my mom taking me, my sister, we got her into a school. It was a Catholic-run school. It was called St. Anthony's, and it was for special needs children. Again, they were calling them mentally retarded then. And the nuns ran the school, and we would go, and I would see all these children, and the nuns loved them, and these kids were so affectionate, it was a remarkable experience. And it wasn't until President Kennedy came out and the family announced to the world that they had a child who was special needs, that things changed. I remember, Beth, there were occasions people would walk to the other side of the street when my family would walk down the street. For some reason, maybe they thought it was contagious or something. It was dreadful. It was dreadful.
Yeah.
So, you're a courageous mother, and you're an honorable mother, and your child, I mean, I don't even know how to find words to tell you how much regard I have for you. I never met you. I don't know you. I don't need to. What you told me is good enough. I know you called about weighted blankets. I was more interested. My instinct told me to ask about your boy, and I knew you had a story to tell, and I wanted you to tell it. So if you want to come back to the top after the top of the hour, and we can talk about weighted blankets, we can do that too. If you want the whole hour, I'll give you the whole hour. Whatever time you need, I'll give you.
Can we get her to post her resources that she used to our social media?
Sure. What we'll do, if you could be so kind, is to hold on or call back if you don't want to wait, and rejoin me at the second hour, and then we can talk on air and then get some information Gary wants from you. Is that okay? Or are you busy?
Sure.
Are you busy?
I actually I have to go into a doctor's appointment right now.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. If you just tuned in, so glad to be with you. Thanks for stopping by today. Hope you're having a good day wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show. That call from Beth in Valrico, Florida, in that last block of the show, of the first hour, you know, she had called about weighted blankets. But I wanted to hear about her son, who was diagnosed with autism, and wanted to give her an opportunity to tell her story. And as I said on Mother's Day, not long ago here, mothers make the place a better world. And listening to that mom talk about her boy, she did what my mom did. Took my sister from one doctor after another to another. And, you know, unfortunately for my mom and for my sister, you know, the diagnosis was awfully grim. But for this mom, Beth, you know, doctors said her boy probably wouldn't talk and he would need adult daycare. Well, she has gotten him not only to speak, but might even be able to go to college, but she refused to give up. That's a lesson from whom we can all learn something. That's remarkable. There are lots of moms like her, and nobody will ever know who they are, except for the people in their immediate family and the doctors and whoever. But they won't be famous. They won't be in the media. But their stories are remarkable. Everyday people doing extraordinary things. And that's a story worth telling, in my opinion. I was so impressed. And I could hear it in her voice. Did you hear that? If you listen to it, Gary,
Yes.
And Katie, I mean, could you hear her voice, the appeal when she said, if you have a child facing some sort of health challenge, if they can't talk, doesn't make any difference, just hold them, love them, care about them. That's what I watched my mother do.
It's true.
Right?
I have a niece with apraxia of speech, and it's the exact same thing. So it was really inspiring to hear her talk.
That's good, Katie. I saw my mom give my sister, as best she could, a normal life. Right? And back then, it was tough. It was tough. You know, they made fun of children with special needs, called them retarded. And, it was dreadful. It was dreadful. I grew up watching that.
And I'm sure very little resources at the time, too.
Very little. And it's true, Katie, you weren't even born then, but President Kennedy, one of the children in the family, was special needs. And the family announced it. And at that point, that was a sea change. And things got better. There were better facilities, better care, more awareness. And I am so happy. If nothing else, if this show never did one darn good thing, what it did in giving that woman, Beth, from Valrico, Florida, a chance to talk about her son, that was redeeming. If that's all we ever accomplished with this show, it was worth it. Let's go to Jenkinstown, Pennsylvania. Michael lives there. Mike, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Hey, good morning, Doctor. Thank you for picking up my phone.
Absolutely.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking, Michael.
It's good. I'm glad to you with us.
What's on your mind
I
today?
had a question about, I hear you say in Pakistan there's
HIV? Yes.
That Pakistan is not close, but the thing is very fast. So
Yeah.
what kind of
Here's
symptoms is?
here's what happened. Apparently, there is a physician. The city where this occurred is called Larkana. I believe that's how you pronounce it, Pakistan. It's near the Sindh province. Apparently, this physician is HIV infected. He has HIV. and he must be a pediatrician. I don't know if he's a family physician or pediatrician. Nevertheless, he intentionally infected these children and the adults with the virus intentionally. Of course, he's been arrested. I don't know ultimately what will happen to him. Gary and Katie, I asked, I'm not an advocate of capital punishment. I don't believe in capital punishment. But in this case, boy, I don't know. And Katie and Gary researched it, and Gary told me that they hang people in Pakistan. That would be a merciful death for this guy. I mean, to do that is unconscionable. I don't know what was in his head to intentionally infect innocent. One child was as young as 8. So that's what happened there, Michael.
But my question is, what kind of symptoms is and
the symptoms? The symptoms? Did you ask me what the symptoms would be?
Yeah.
Yeah. They reported here in the story. In fact, they were talking about some of the symptoms that these children were exhibiting. They're classic. Let me see if I can find that in the story. I don't want to misrepresent the story. I can't put my eyes on it at the moment, but there were some. Let me see if I can find that for you. They were apparently the children were exhibiting some classic symptoms of HIV, and that's what made the kids were having fever was one. They were running high fevers, and so the parents took the kids independent of one another. They didn't know each other. We're taking them to a clinic, and the clinic determined that these kids were infected. The initial symptom was fever. They were having fever, high fever, which can be alarming, right? And yeah, that HIV is an insidious disease, as we know. Now, they've come a long, long way in trying to at least put it at bay. I don't think they can cure it, but there are researchers around the world still trying to come up with some way, some vaccine or some way to kill that virus or to inoculate people so that they're protected. They will figure it out someday, but I reported on it. I know Pakistan is a long way from Jenkinstown, Pennsylvania, where you live, but nevertheless, those kind of stories, they have certainly a human interest, but people, Gary was telling me that there's a malaria. What's going on with that?
There's a malaria virus, or
epidemic.
There's a malaria epidemic, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Organization and the World Health Organization, along with GlaxoSmithKline, spent $700 million to come up with a vaccine. It took them 32 years. It's 40% effective.
Yeah,
by preventing malaria.
Right. And so I made the point one day, Michael. I said most of us get up every day. Certainly, we have our challenges and we have issues in our world in the country in which we live. But some of these people that wake up in some of these countries, they have to worry about malaria. They have to worry about all these infectious diseases that we have vaccines for. We got vaccinated. We don't worry about it. Now we have a measles outbreak because some people refuse to get vaccinated. But we wake up every day. We take a lot of things for granted. And so I report on those stories to remind us that, we live in a pretty good place and it's safe and good medical care. And we don't have a lot of things to worry about that so many others do across the world in the societies or the countries in which they live. Always appreciate your call, Michael. I hope you're feeling better and doing better, Michael.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garkler. One question, please.
Hold your question. We'll catch you on the other side. Hold on. to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go back to Jenkinstown, Pennsylvania. That's near Philadelphia. Michael, you had a question. What's your question?
Yes, about this HIV disease. How is this transferring? How I understand this is sexual transferring.
Yes,
disease.
it's.
How is this young children think that?
I don't know. I don't know exactly how how this doctor infected these children, these 500 children. Usually, HIV is transmitted with an exchange of fluids, bodily fluids. Sexual intercourse, of course, would be one way in which you can become infected. It's an exchange of these fluids. So I don't know what he did. I don't know how he did it. I have no clue. Other than this is a story coming out of Pakistan, so I don't have all the details. I'm sure some of the major media outlets will pick it up, and I'm going to look into it a little further. I don't recall of ever reporting on any case such as this. He was charged with criminal negligence, medical negligence. Of course he would be. But it's astonishing that somebody could do that. Not only did he infect the children, he infected some adults as well. So I don't know exactly what he did. I'll see if I can find out. I will follow up on this and report on it some more, Michael, okay?
Very good. Thank you so much.
All right, have a good day. Are you feeling okay?
Yes, I'm good. I'm now on a second opinion with Fox Chase.
Okay, well,
when I finish it, I give you a call.
Yeah, let me know what they diagnosed. Get your second opinion, okay? You let me know.
Thank you so much for interesting in.
Of course, Michael. Of course, I would ask. We're all in it together. We care about you. 877-897-8255, 877-897-TALK. Gary was telling me off air, and I'll let him tell you what happened.
Here's my update on the hepatitis epidemic in where we live in the Bay Area.
In Tampa, Florida.
A family of 6 has been infected. Been infected with hepatitis A from a restaurant in Tarpon Springs,
Florida.
So the whole family, mom, dad, everybody, they're in the hospital right now.
So how many members? 6?
6.
All right. So can you just imagine that for a second? You take your family out to dinner, and next thing that happens is the whole family's hospitalized with hepatitis A.
Okay. So I have a friend who's really anti-vaccine. We've talked about her off the air a couple times, and yesterday was a turning point for her to say she finally posted on social media, "Go get your hepatitis A vaccine."
Yeah.
Well, if you're in the Bay Area, and most health departments now are giving them away for free.
In Tampa Bay. When we say Bay Area, that usually includes Tampa, St. Petersburg, Florida, and Clearwater, Florida. It's a big area. It's where all the beaches are and whatnot. So when we say Bay Area, there's a Bay Area in San Francisco, of course. This is the Bay Area in Tampa.
But now they've got the hepatitis A epidemic is, it comes from not washing your hands.
Yeah, well, you have employees. The sign in the bathroom says employees must wash hands. Fecal matter on hands, unsanitary conditions, and the employees go back into the kitchen, whatever, handling food, plates. That virus bacteria will transfer quickly, and it doesn't take much. And so now you have, entire family being infected. It was hepatitis A?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was from a food service worker.
So, that virus is a food service worker, see? And probably unintentional, just careless.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people say, oh, this is stuff that happens to other people. Well, tell that to the 6 family members who are all now infected, mother, father, and the children. 877-897-8255. You hear me talk a lot on this show about pathogenic microorganisms. I introduced that theme this year into the show in a more, how can I say, prominent way. And I will continue to talk about pathogenic microorganisms and the different forms that they take to educate ourselves. There's so much to learn. In my pathology course, the professor, who was wonderful, probably the best one I've had so far in my program, really was dialed in and gave me a better appreciation and understanding of these pathogenic microorganisms, what that really, really means in day-to-day life. So I'm grateful to him. Again, 877-897-8255. Speaking of microorganisms, but not of the pathogenic type, but of the, that make up your gut, your microbiome, your gut microbiome, the healthy, good bacteria. You hear us report a lot on these probiotics, to take probiotics and to eat food that has a lot of fiber in it and so on. Evidence has been mounting now at a very steady pace that I can only say suggests, but these gut bacteria play a dynamic and complex role in maintaining and having an impact upon our overall health. Not just our physical health, but our psycho-emotional health. When I come back, I'm going to share with you some new studies, fresh research that really gives some insight into this phenomenon. The gut microbiome. How you get from your gut to your brain and your brain to your gut. There's a connection. I'll show you.
Don't be stressed out or anxious.
gut to your brain seems like a long ways away from one another, but it's really not. Welcome back to Let's Talk Nutrition. That theme, gut-brain connection, has become more and more prominent in the medical literature, both in traditional medicine and naturopathic medicine. And the evidence keeps mounting about that connection. Before I tell you about these specific stories, we'll just do a little tutorial here on what is the nature of the connection. How does this happen? So you have what we call the gastrointestinal or the gut microbiome, which is constituted of trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi that live in your gut. The bacteria in your gut, as you now have figured out, both good and bad, have an impact on your health. And there are any number of ways to make sure that you take care of that, and we talk about that as well on the show. Nevertheless, you often hear people say, I got that gut feeling, or that wrenching feeling in my stomach, or the butterflies, and the fact it's connected to your emotions. Well, that's not an accident. The sensations that emanate from your stomach area, your gut, suggest that your brain and gut are indeed connected. And that connection, the gut and the brain, is called the gut-brain axis. That's how they typically refer to it. They use other fancy terms, but you get the point. The gut-brain axis. And there are certain foods that are beneficial for that, and there are foods that can disrupt it in lifestyle. But the gut-brain axis is a term to identify a communication network connecting the gut and the brain, which are two very, both physically and biochemically. The one way they get connected, you have the neurons, are the cells found in your brain and central nervous system. There are 100 billion of those or so. Then you also have neurons in your gut, around, they estimate, 500 million, which are connected to your brain through the nervous system. And it's referred to as the enteric nervous system. Well, there's one nerve that is the biggest of the nerves, if you will, in the gut-brain connection. It's called the vagus nerve. And it sends signals in both directions, from gut to brain, brain to gut, the vagus nerve. One study found that people with irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's disease had reduced vagal tone, indicating a reduced function of the vagus nerve. Kind of interesting. And then in a study with a laboratory study in which they used mice, they found that feeding them a probiotic reduced the amount of stress hormone in their blood. However, when their vagus nerve was cut, the probiotic had no effect. Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your vagus nerve doesn't get cut, but it can be disrupted. It can be impaired by the way you live, by the way you eat. And hence, you can infer from that study with the mice, there are other studies as well, human and animal studies, that would suggest that vagus nerve is a vital nervous system connection between the gut and the brain. But your gut and brain are also connected by chemicals. They're called neurotransmitters. They're produced in the brain, and the neurotransmitters are the ball game in terms of how you feel, your emotions, and so on. They play a huge role in that arena. And you have many different kinds of neurotransmitters, one of which is serotonin. And serotonin happens to be the hormone that creates the feeling of happiness. It also is the hormone that controls the circadian clocks in your body. Many of these neurotransmitters also are produced by your cells in your gastrointestinal tract and the trillions of microbes that live there. a large proportion of serotonin, as it turns out, is in fact synthesized or otherwise made in your gut. It's not made in the brain necessarily. Your gut microbes also produce a neurotransmitter called GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. What does that do? Well, that's implicated in your feelings of fear and anxiety. Again, laboratory studies in which they use mice have revealed that certain probiotics can increase the production of GABA, thereby reducing anxiety and depression-like behavior. So you see, this is not science fiction. Your gut microbes make other chemicals as well, and affect how your brain works. Your gut microbes also produce lots of short-chain fatty acids, such as butyrate, propionate, and acetate. They make short-chain fatty acids by digesting what? The F word, fiber. Short-chain fatty acids affect what? Your brain and how it functions, such as reducing your appetite. One study, they discovered that consuming propionate would reduce food intake and reduce the activity of the brain related to what? To reward from high-energy food. So you don't get that feeling of reward after eating those kind of foods. Kind of interesting. I could go on. You get the point. What I'm trying to make here, you got this enteric nervous system that connects the gut and the brain. And then you have neurotransmitters that connect the gut and the brain. You have some of these neurotransmitters, like serotonin, for example, and GABA, that are connected between these two organ systems, and the gut making them, that have a profound impact on your psycho-emotional health. It's intriguing. This discovery, I mean, we've known this for a while. Scientists have known this for a while, but we're now becoming more specific about this connection. We're more definitive about it. And so most people, probably most of the people listening and watching this show are aware of probiotics. They're aware of this connection because we talk about it on the show. I dare say probably the majority of the population doesn't. And oftentimes, in fact, in psychiatry now and in psychology, this topic is a big topic. And some of the more cutting-edge therapists are using natural therapies to help with that connection, that gut-brain connection, with patients suffering from anxiety and other kinds of mental disorders. We'll be back. Here's the LTN health question of the day. So I was talking about the gut-brain connection and how these gut microbes. Now, you have these microbes. They can be bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other things. But you can break them out into two classes if you want to. Pathogenic, meaning disease-causing, or the other group, for lack of a better way to say it, the healthy bacteria, health-related bacteria, the ones that confer good health on you. So the question, I'm using the phrase gut microbes, could mean both good and bad. And the question is this: which of the following are your gut microbes involved in? A, metabolizing bile acids and amino acids. B, affecting inflammation by creating inflammatory toxins that can leak into the bloodstream if you suffer from leaky gut syndrome. C, they can make short-chain fatty acids. Or D, all of the above. What are your gut microbes involved in, both the good and the bad ones? Metabolizing bile acids and amino acids, affecting inflammation by making certain inflammatory toxins, making short-chain fatty acids, or all of the above. With the right answer, you'll win a $25 supplement gift card. It's all good.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-TALK.
There are some researchers that devote their career to this whole line of research. Oftentimes, that's what investigators do. They specialize in a line of research, and they spend their whole career in doing the theory and the coming up with theories and developing theories and hypotheses, as well as conducting empirical studies of one sort or another in one particular area. In the arena of your gut microbiome or pathogenic microorganisms that live in your gut, that breaks out into even more specialized areas. So this is a very robust place for inquiry, if you will. And you need to take probiotics. Most likely, if you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, anything with fiber in it, you're probably having issues. Dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is where the good bacteria are outnumbered by the bad bacteria. Let's go to Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. All's well in Wellsboro. Constance, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on.
Oh, thank you. It's Willow Grove. You're saying it.
Oh, Willow Grove. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was my fault.
It's okay. No, it's okay. No worries. Where's Willow Grove?
Pennsylvania.
I got that part right.
Where in Pennsylvania? Are you near Philadelphia?
Yes, I am.
Do you go into the city much?
Not anymore. I used to live in the city. Yes.
I like Philadelphia. Did you like living in the city?
Oh, yes, I did.
I know. Philly's there's a lot going on in Philadelphia, man, in that city. Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh, but it's on the other side of the state, but I've been to Philadelphia many times. You like where you live now?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. It's important to like where you live, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Very much so.
Yeah, Constance. So,
yes.
What's the answer? Your gut microbes, both the good and the bad, are involved in making bile acids and amino acids. They can affect inflammation by creating these inflammatory toxins that get into the bloodstream. They can make short-chain fatty acids, or all of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah, all of the above and then more. We're learning more about how the gut and the brain are connected. Most people think, well, everything about our emotions, our psychological life, our psychological well-being is all located in our brain. Not necessarily. Much of it's located in your digestive tract, in your intestines, which is to some people, that may be surprising. To people that listen and watch the show, maybe not so much. First, thank you so much for listening to the show. Second, thank you for calling in. And thirdly, congratulations on winning a $25 supplement gift card.
And thank you so very much. You have an excellent information show, and I listen to it every day.
Thank you. I feel honored.
I look forward to it.
Well, thank you. We look forward to having you there as well. That was you made my day. Thank you so much. We look forward to you too, Constance. I want to go back to a call we had from Beth in the first hour, the last block of the first hour, where Beth called in from Valrico, Florida, and she shared the story about her little boy who has autism, was diagnosed. And she had called about weighted blankets. I was more interested in knowing about her son because I knew she had a story to tell. And she shared that on air today. And listening to that mom talk, she refused to accept what the doctors told her, that her boy would not be able to talk and that he would probably need adult daycare for the rest of his life. Well, she had other things in mind, and she worked with him as she was telling the story, and now has gotten him to read, and they now believe he's a candidate to go to college. That's what a mother can do. A mother can make the difference. She made the difference in her son's destiny. And that's why I said on Mother's Day, mothers make the place a better world. That is the archetypal example of what a mom can do. Not giving in, refusing to accept a diagnosis for her son, and said, I know we can do better. That's her boy. She gave birth to him. She knows him. She's instinctively and maternally connected to that boy. And so the mother knew better, and she stuck to her guns and did what was right for her son. I didn't want to ask his name, his first name. I didn't want to get probe and, cause her to self-disclose more than maybe she wanted to. But I appreciate her call, and I know we all appreciate her and all the moms just like Beth who take care of their children and love them when at times things seem so grim. And that's what we try to do on the show. Those stories are important to tell. They inspire all of us. They have great meaning. They can change our destiny. I'll think about her today. I'll think about what she said. Your health is your wealth, and your health is the wealth of those that care about and love you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Everyone's raving about the newest botanical superstar hitting the store shelves nationwide. Hemp-derived